Alright, now let me ask you a couple of questions. Do you have a Sony ZV-E10? And do you want to know the best settings for this camera so that your videos look as amazing as possible? Well, you're in luck, because in this video, I'm going to go over the settings that I use to get this amazing video quality that you're seeing right now, so that you can achieve a similar look. What's going on, everybody? My name is Issa, and in this video, I'm going to show you the best settings to use with your ZV-E10. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to do is obviously turn the camera on, and then we're going to go to our menu settings. So I click here, and the first page is the quality / image size 1. So yeah, let's just run through the settings that I use and the settings that I changed. So yeah, just leave everything on the first page the same. Actually, except all of this is for photography, I think. On the first page, then we move here. All right, don't worry about the third page either, actually. The fourth section of the first page. So here, AF1, you can see focus mode. Now you want that on continuous autofocus. That's what I have it set to. And yeah, so you can have autofocus. The only other option for the mode I'm using is manual. But obviously, yeah, you want to use autofocus because, you know, manual focus. I mean, why would you use manual focus with a camera that has autofocus? I mean, autofocus literally just makes things easier for you. So just use autofocus, continuous AF. That's what I use. In the focus area, I've set to wide, so I could get the widest field of view. So for the autofocus, focus area limit, I don't mess with that. Face and eye priority in AF. Now I have this turned on, and what this does is that it tracks my face and my eyes. So whenever I'm moving, whenever, you know, I'm moving in the frame, you know, the autofocus will always, you know, track me and make sure that I'm in focus because, well, in this case, I'm the subject. So yeah, just turn it on. That's what I do. Let's go to the 5th page. I don't mess with any of this. 6th page, exposure comp, just leave that. I usually use an ISO of 100. Because, you know, it's very low and you're gonna get, you know, great image quality if you have, you know, decent lighting. And I usually like, you know, I usually have good lighting and I don't like to have a grainy image, so I just keep it like that. I don't mess with any of this other stuff. So let's go to the 7th page of this section. Yeah, I keep all of this the same. All right, now for white balance, now I set a custom temperature. I highly recommend doing that. I would not use the auto white balance here. Well, that's underwater auto. But I would not use auto white balance because you're not, you know, it's gonna keep changing and shifting. And when you go to color grade your footage, you know, all the footage is gonna be out of whack. It's gonna be out of balance. So I highly recommend when you're shooting video to set your white balance manually. But yeah, I typically just set mine to 5600 Kelvin because that's daylight temperature. Sony also has some presets that you can use. They have daylight, shade, cloudy. So daylight's pretty similar to the temperature I use, but I always just set it manually because, you know, that's just what I like. And I set my lights in my bedroom manually when I'm shooting indoors. So I have that set to around 5600 Kelvin. So it's identical and the same to the daylight temperature outside. All right, so we'll just leave that like that at 5600K. One important thing to mention is the picture profile here. Now I leave this set to off. Now, if you want to choose a different picture profile, it's basically just like gonna change. So like if you want to shoot an S-Log or HLG, you want, you wanna, get more dynamic range when you color grade. But personally, I find that it's fine just leaving it off. I don't really need to shoot in log. You could still get, really nice image quality out of this camera by just leaving it off, even if you're going to color grade. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you do want to use log footage, is that the ZV-E10 Mark I is an 8-bit camera, so if you do want to use log footage, S-Log might be pretty grainy if you don't color grade it right, so you have to be really particular how you color grade it. I did try HLG3, and if you color grade HLG3 right, that's probably the best picture profile to use with this camera. But honestly, if you're shooting indoors, I would recommend just leaving the picture profile off. But if you're shooting outside and you really, you want that, log-like footage, you want, that dynamic range and being able to color grade a lot, then sure, pick one of these profiles. If you do choose one, then I highly recommend doing picture profile 10 and just using HLG3 with the BT2020. So just, it's usually set to HLG2. So if you're gonna use picture profile 10, just change it to HLG3. And that's the format I would recommend if you're gonna use a picture profile. But honestly, with this camera, I'd honestly recommend just leaving it off because the video quality is good enough. You don't really need to shoot in log to get, nice colors or good image quality out of this camera, at least when you're shooting inside. But, maybe if you're shooting outside or, you want that dynamic range, then sure, go and set a picture profile. All right, let's go back to the menu here. I need to turn this back off. All right. So moving on to the next page, soft skin effect. I turn this off. I mean, it's pretty pointless. It'll just make your skin look a little smoother, I guess, but it's unnecessary, so I just leave that off. I don't mess with any of these settings. Product showcase mode. Now, if you have a product, like say you're doing a review video and you want to show it to a camera, then I'd recommend turning this on. The camera will track your face and your eyes if product showcase mode is off. So if you don't have a product to show, then I'd recommend just leaving it off so that, you can make sure that you're in focus the whole time. But if you are doing a review video and you want to make sure the product is in focus instead of your face, because if you do have face and eye tracking, your face is going to be in focus, and if you're showing a product, you're going to have to cover your face in order for your viewers to be able to see the product. So if you don't want to have to do that and you want to make it easier on yourself, then yeah, turn product showcase set on. But if you're just doing a normal video, you don't have, it's not a review video, you're not showing the viewer any products, then I would just leave this off. Register faces priority. I don't think I changed this. I think this is on the auto setting that my camera came with, but just so you know, it's set to on here. And yeah, now we're gonna move on to the next tab, and this is the movie 1 tab. So shoot mode, I shoot manual exposure. So obviously you can set all the settings manually here. File format, I shoot in 4K for the best, resolution and image quality. I shoot at 24 FPS as well, because 24 FPS, if you didn't know, is the frame rate that they use, to make movies. And yeah, I want my videos to look like film. I want them to look, movie-like. If you want it to look more realistic, you can change it to 30 FPS. But I personally like that movie-like look, and that's the look that I'm going for, with all my videos now. So yeah. But anyways, that's that. Let's go to S&Q. So S&Q, this is basically just slow motion. I have it set to 120 FPS for the frame rate when I do use slow motion. And yeah, the recording setting, this is just the typical setting you record at. Like I said, I record at 24 FPS. If you record at 34 or 30 FPS, that's what'll show up here. And this is the slow motion frame rate you want to change it to. So this camera can do 1080p at 120 up to 120 FPS. Now it can't do like 4K 60 or any dig, so unfortunately you're not going to get 4K slow motion, but you will get 1080p slow motion, so that's pretty nice. All right, I'm gonna go back to the menu. Next tab. I don't really mess with any of this. All of this is pretty much auto. Audio record level, well, that depends on what mic you're using, how loud you want it. Typically when I'm using the Hollyland mic with this camera, I'll have it set to like 10. But yeah, set it to the volume that's good for whatever microphone you're using with this camera. All right, I leave audio display level on. I think that's how it comes with. I don't think I changed that. But obviously you want to see your audio levels to see if you're, you know, clipping or if you're too quiet. So yeah, obviously that's very important. All right, so wind noise reduction, I have that set to off because I don't use the built-in mic on this camera. Steady shot, I have that off. Now this is basically just digital stabilization. So if you're vlogging, you know, doing handheld footage, then if you're gonna use this, you might wanna set it to active or standard. Now personally, active is gonna give you the smoothest footage. It's the most zoomed in. But if I'm gonna do some handheld vlogging, me personally, I'll just use Catalyst Browse and do it in post. That's how I like to do it, because I personally think that Catalyst Browse is gonna give you the smoothest footage if you're doing anything handheld. But if you want to, I think if you're gonna use the steady shot digital stabilization, then I'd recommend active, because that's gonna give you the smoother footage than the standard one. But I don't use either personally. All right, next, I don't mess with any of this. I don't mess with any of this. Can skip past that. This is the 7th page. All right, so there's some important stuff here. Display button, I didn't change that. Zebras. Now I'd recommend turning zebras on. This is actually very important because the zebras make sure, you know, that you're properly exposed when you're shooting. So if you see lines on your face or your skin when you're shooting, that means you're properly exposed at level 70. So if you see those lines on your, you know, your face and your skin at level 70, you're good to go. You're properly exposed. So that's the level I typically keep it at. And yeah, I don't mess with any of this other stuff. All of this is, you know, auto, the way, you know, the camera came out of the box. You know, I didn't change any of those settings. So I didn't change any of this either. It's all the same as the camera came with. So now we can move on to the network tab. The only thing I changed in this tab, I did turn airplane mode on. Now obviously, you know, I'm not filming, I'm not traveling or anything when I've been using this camera. I haven't done any of that, but the reason I turn it on is because, you know, it actually helps, you know, you to save some battery. So even though I'm not on the airplane, you know, I'm not traveling, going to different places with this camera, it still helps a lot, you know, to turn it on if you want to save some battery life. So yeah, I don't mess with any of this. Playback 1. So yeah, I don't mess with any of this, so we could just skip all the playback settings because I didn't do anything with that. Setup 1. Now if I'm outside, I'll have the camera set to sunny weather. As you can see here, I was just filming outside a while ago for another video I was making. But if I'm indoors, I'll typically set it to manual just so I can save some battery. But yeah, that's typically what I do. The sunny weather will just make the flip out screen brighter so that it's easier to see yourself, because, you know, it can get pretty bright when you're outside, and, you know, it's hard to see if you're in frame in the shot and see if you're in focus. So that'll really help you out. I just leave gamma. I didn't change that. Gamma disp assist. Volume settings. All right, so all of this is just auto, the way it came with. Now NTC and PAL selector. So basically, if you're in the United States, you want to turn NTC on. NTSC, my bad. You want to turn that on. Now, if you're in like any other country, I think you're going to use the PAL, and I'm pretty sure there's different frame rates for that as well. So if you're like using the PAL selector, you'd be using like 25 FPS or 50 FPS for your recordings. But since I'm in the US, well, obviously I use NTSC. And yeah, I'm able to use 24 FPS and like 60 FPS, 30 FPS. But yeah, if you're in another country, turn it on PAL, unless you're in the US like me. Now you can shoot NTSC even if you're in another country, but just know you might have some flickering issues like with your lights. So your image, you know, it might start flickering. So it's best to use, you know, the selector that your country typically uses. So yeah, I have mine set to NTSC. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the setup. And the menu setting, yeah, all the other tabs, I just left it on auto. So yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to my settings, the settings that I use or the settings that I changed with this camera. Yo, what's up everybody? Issa PV here. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I was just going over the settings that I think are the best to use with your ZV-E10. So I hope this helps you out. And yeah, if you want to use my settings, then obviously you can copy these or tweak them to your exact liking. I hope I explained each of the settings pretty well so that you guys could get a good like general understanding of, you know, why I chose the settings I did and the way that they work. Also, I hope this video doesn't end up coming out to be too long. I hope I was able to get the information out in a nice, you know, concise span of time. But anyways, if you did enjoy this video and you want to see more content from me, then consider subscribing and turning on notifications if you don't want to miss another video. I'll leave the links to my camera gear as well as the other filmmaking gear that I use to make these videos, which is in my kit.co down in the description below. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this video. Thank you for watching like always, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.